Good evening. Thank you all for being here. I would like to call to order the Tuesday, November 4th meeting of the Monmouth City Council and ask our city recorder, Phyllis Bowman. Call, please.
Counselor Belts.
Here.
Counselor Carey.
Here.
Said, it bothers me when I pull up to a stop and I see garbage on the ground. And we only have small garbage cans in the trolley that couldn't possibly fit all of it. I think trash cans at the stop would be worth the maintenance. And the third trolley driver we spoke to, Jeff, said, it's unfortunate that trash builds up at the stops. I think that trash cans would be useful, maybe not at every stop, but at the busier ones, like at the college on Church Street or near the high school. We believe that installing trash cans, even just at the highest traffic stops, would go a long way in addressing this issue that clearly affects both drivers and riders. It's a small investment that could have a meaningful impact on the cleanliness and usability of our trolley system. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Aaron. And perhaps we will have our city manager address that. I know we've got some bus stop things. Do they have trash cans attached to them when we get those installed?
I'm not too sure if they are attached to them, but I can definitely talk to the committee and we can suggest making sure that trash cans are installed along with the stop shelters and at the high traffic areas.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for getting all of the testimony to back up your point. We appreciate that. All right, I don't see any other public comment. And Phyllis, did we have anyone online?
I did not receive any comments from anybody online.
Okay, All right, and that brings us to a presentation this evening. And one of our fun things we get to do is meet with the boards and commissions who do a lot of the heavy lifting on work in our community. So I'm going to invite Suzanne Duffner, who is our Community and Economic Development Director, and she is the liaison to our Historic Commission, and have her introduce the folks here with her this evening, and we'll hear what the Historic Commission is.
All right. Yes. Good evening. Thank you, Mayor, for the introduction. Suzanne Duffner, Community and Economic Development Director for the City of Monmouth. I'm going to actually turn the time over to our Vice Chair, Ron Woodruff, to do the introduction along with Amy.
Hi, good evening. Is it on?
Uh-huh.
Okay. So as Suzanne said, I'm Vice Chair of the Historical Commission, and I'm here with fellow commissioners, Amy Lemko, to report on our Historic Commission's activities throughout 2025 and highlighting our collaborations and future plans. So I'd like to introduce current members. I'm not sure who else here. Amy to my left and Beth to my right. Dykstra, she's also an orchestra member, and I'm a guitar player, but that doesn't count. And Laura Albert, nor is Marcus Alford. Let me see. I would also like to thank two longstanding commissioners that have retired from the commission. Jim Manning has served for 9 years, and Nita Wilson has served for 24 years. That's a long time, long, major commitment. So I'd like to turn it over to Commissioner Lemko, and she can give our annual report. And
Somebody has their speaker on their laptop. Can you check? Yeah.
Two examples. Okay. Now or, oh, you want to give the looks now or? We were really busy this year, so I'll try to talk fast so that maybe we have time for questions. In April, in preparation of Historic Preservation Month, the Commission designed a library display highlighting the Southwest Heights Historic Context Statement, which was prepared by the Peter Maher architect firm of Portland. The New Horizon Orchestra collaborated in the display in creating a poster because they were going to perform, and we'll come back. They collaborated with us a lot this year. We'll come back to them. And they also created a radio spot that went out over several cities. In May, Suzanne and I mentored a graduating senior from WU, Cody Dyke, for the second annual Listen to a Legacy project, which partners youth and seniors for interviews. It's seconded as his capstone project. Using photos of Monmouth in the 1970s, which were collected by our own Phyllis Bowman. Cody interviewed Phyllis and Paul Sieber and Rose Hernandez, both all who lived here during that period. He digitized all the photos, created a transcript of the interview, and a map of the downtown during the period. We're hoping that this will be useful in the future for tracing like the life of some businesses. He also created a display board for the second May event, which was the community presentation of the historic context statement and a performance by the New Horizon Orchestra featuring music from the 1970s movie soundtracks. We had about 40 people attending the concert, including people who came off the street when they were hearing the music, and it was very well received by the attendees. Jessica Schmidt, who was an architect with the PMA who conducted the survey, presented the information from the statement, namely that the Southwest Heights addition was platted by farmer John Stump in the 1920s, and construction was overseen by his sons and grandsons in response to the growth of Monmouth in the 1940s and 50s into the late 70s. Factors encouraging the growth were the rise of the personal automobile and construction of Highway 99, the establishment of FHA loans in the Great Depression, and the period of World War II and afterwards, specifically the construction of Camp Adair. Also, WU expanded its curriculum from 2 to 4 years, the year before the war ended, and the GI Bill supported veterans returning to college. The styles of the homes constructed reflect the periods the rise of the railroads, the standardization of production and technological advances, aesthetic revivals and new aesthetic movements, the Depression and the post-war economic prosperity, and even the rise of the television in the home are reflected in the designs in that neighborhood. After the concert, several people who lived in the Southwest Heights neighborhood stayed for further interviews, namely David Dullinger and Mark Nelson. The commission also had feedback surveys, and the community expressed interest in developing walking tours and further research on the Adair buildings, which were moved from the camp to Monmouth. One thing that keeps coming up in conversation is including trees in these walking tours and other like non-building sites. And that sort of came up also with this neighborhood because as the street names reflect, like there's still trees from the historic orchards in that area. The events of that survey concluded a 2-year grant period, and we are hoping to be able to apply for a new one in February. In October, we had another awesome History and Mystery event. The event opened with another 30-minute concert by the New Horizon Orchestra, which was interspersed with the history of music clubs in Monmouth. Suzanne has some examples of the booklets. This is the 3rd annual commemorative booklet that we have put together. And the goal is that the booklets don't just have a new cover, they always have new stories from year to year. Due to several of our usual storytellers, some of who are in the room today being out of town for a government event, we shifted the format slightly. And we had just 5 locations, including Luna's, where we had free snacks for the community and a projection of videos of the Monmouth Christian Church congregation from the 1930s, 40s, and 50s on a loop. I think this was a good format. People had more time to get around, and there's still, even at the end of 2 hours, were people who were coming in and wanting to hear the stories. We estimate maybe about 200 people probably attended the event. We had news stories, which is our intention every year, including the history of radium watches in Monmouth. We had some new ghosts, a bigger history of Howell House and the Howell family. We had 2 youth storytellers for the 2nd year, which we were very excited about. And as mentioned, the 3rd booklet and the suggested donations to, purchasing the booklet at that event have already almost recouped the cost. And what we found at the May event is that that's a second opportunity for us to offer the booklets. With that in mind, the stories in this one are looking forward to next May, because we found that if you tell stories in October, you're only kind of getting the spooky stuff. And this gives us the opportunity to talk about things like gardens and Cupid's Knoll and things of that nature. Other things we're looking forward to are collaborating more, as it was so successful with the New Horizon Orchestra, which really represents coming together of players from many of the local communities, Salem, Dallas, Corvallis, Independence, as well as Monmouth. And we'd like to collaborate with other city commissions, like the Gardens Commission is one that we've talked about. There's the 250th American celebration this summer, and we are hoping to apply for a grant, possibly for the displayed case, to begin a pocket museum for Monmouth. And there is some upcoming legislation that may change the way that local governments collaborate with tribes on historic preservation we're very excited about. And we're also thinking about how technology and culture are changing the way that we present history to the younger generation.
Did you have any questions for the Historic Commission?
Yeah. Any questions or comments? Councilor Lopez?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you very much for this wonderful presentation. You clearly have been very busy, and I love that. I'm very intrigued about a number of things that you shared. I guess I'll go in kind of reverse order, the technology and culture and how that impacts the lens with which we experience and share history. I'm fascinated by your work there, and that's an angle that once you hear it, it makes so much sense, but I had never considered before. So would love to learn more about that at a future date. I also was quite stricken by including the trees and non-building sites in the walking tour. That is fantastic. It's been some time since I've been on our walking tour. I will admit I'll have to renew my experience there. But I was recently on another city's historical walking tour. And I won't name the city name. It's not any of our immediate neighbors, but I was disappointed at how it was focused on just scandalous pieces of history. And you would have thought that, you know, every other building that was still standing was an opium den or something along those lines, based on the subject of the tour. And it really heartens me to hear that you're including the things that not only, you know, are some of those kind of more evocative things about history, but the things that create the community fabric that we so love and enjoy. And so, you know, I would just encourage you to continue your work there. I think it's amazing what you're doing. And thank you for sharing the books, and thank you for, again, just championing this beautiful historical perspective and preserving the history of our town. Thank you.
Others? Councillor Carey.
You mentioned early in your presentation, before you got to the history and mystery, I talked about Camp Adair and the end of the war and the movement of buildings to Monmouth. Was that where the old Vet Village came from? Vet Village was where veterans, as the name would suggest, lived during the late, probably mid-50s through, I think it finally was torn down in 71, maybe. And it was just east of the what is now the Wolves Athletic Center, in that Grove area. And I've often wondered where those buildings came from. And I wonder if that's was the origin of that. That might be a future, like, winnow down on things.
Yeah, I think that Suzanne was taking a note. That was not on our radar as something that had come up. So the archives online of the newspapers kind of stop at a specific period, and then you have to go to other subscription sites to find out about the period that you're talking about. But we would definitely look into that. The ones that were part of the survey are kind of just right back behind here. The little, there's like 2 or 3 cottages. You know the, yeah.
Yeah, there's, I believe, a couple of them that are on West Main Street. And they were, the way that actually Nita described them to us, these, we believe, came from the actual Camp Adair site just off of 99. And they were housing units that were like 4 kind of village cottages kind of put together, and they just broke them apart. And some of them actually floated down the Willamette, or down or up. Up the Willamette River to the different sites. They sold them as surplus. So are you, Councillor Carey, you're talking about the Grove, like actually on Western Campus, where those ones came from? I don't know either. That'd be good little research to see if we can find that out.
Yeah, I don't know the origin, and it may have been gotten the moniker Vet Village because of the people that lived there, and may not have anything to do with the origin of the buildings. Vet Village is near and dear to virtually all of the people that went to school, in the 60s, early 60s, 50s. I mean, it was family living, basically, and was a key element to the campus, at the time. Anyway, that's out there. And then I guess my question would be, to what degree are you working with the university and the library archives, that sort of thing? I mean, that, our histories are linked, clearly. And I think there's a renewed interest in the university and in recapturing their roots, and see how that works with the roots, the Monmouth experience. So I think, and I'm sure you are, but if you're not, I would really encourage that, because, we don't need to grow into historical silos. And I think the new president in particular has got an interest in mining that that history. I will just say, and very quickly, and I'll be done. I went through on a research project that I was on, I went through the yearbooks of OCE from about 1940 up until 73, I think is the one that I went. And boy, that's an interesting read. The changes, how, and you always say that, how simple it seemed. I'm sure it wasn't, but man, oh man, it was really very interesting and very parochial in many ways, and a lot of fun. Anyway, thanks for your work. I echo Councillor Lopez's interest and hope you're able to continue. And if we can help, let us know.
It's excellent. And thank you, Councillor McKeel, as our city liaison. So it'd be remiss to not thank you for being part of us and helping the group all along the way. So thanks for your service.
Yeah, if you guys have any connections at the college and could convince the professors to offer like some extra credit or something, I'd love to get the history students involved in any way. Yeah.
Anything else for them? All right. Yeah. Thumbs up. Keep at it.
Thank you.
I really appreciate the active work that you're doing and interactive work, right? It's bringing our history to life with murals and tours and concerts and activities, and it's amazing. And yes, we're very sorry we couldn't make History and Mystery this year.
I just want to throw in that we're seeing a real acceleration in the kind of work that a number of boards and commissions are doing, where they used to be somewhat passive, real active work now. And this is another example. So, yay.
On the record, it's a great group. I enjoy working with them.
All right. Thanks. Thanks again, and appreciate all of you coming, and look forward to getting more great information. That brings us to our business agenda. And it's this evening, since we actually have a couple of new staffers here, if you want to introduce both of them, Rochelle, as we bring one of them up anyway.
Oh, sure. So Amy Metler is our new finance director. Amy came to us actually as a contractor to help us get things going after the passing of our prior finance director, and has done a fantastic job, hit the ground running. And so I wanted her to come introduce herself and kind of talk about what's been going on in finance, and also give an update on the financials. The other employee is Derek, and I'm sorry, Derek, I can't remember your last name. Bowers. Derek, sorry about that. Derek is IT support. He actually reports to Jason Kistler in Independence, but will be supporting Monmouth. And the council knows this year that was one of the goals that we were working on, was trying to transfer to IT support. And so Derek is here tonight for the first time, which we're very excited for, and I'm sure Phyllis is very excited about. So thank you, Derek, for being here.
And Amy gets to come up now. Nice try. Introduction. Sit down to make her first report to us, and tell us a little bit about yourself, what your background is, and then we'll get an actual financial report.
Absolutely. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm super excited and very happy to be here. I'm going to ask for your grace here at the beginning. I brought a little joke, and that's that I wasn't born yesterday, but I was hired yesterday.
Go ahead and make sure you leave that. There you go.
Miss the red button.
You don't have to hold it.
Perfect. Just stay front. I'll get good at this. So I'm going to start with a little about me. Mostly I'm going to talk about the current state of where we are as far as picking things back up. And then I'm going to do a brief review of the finances real quick. So about me, I live in Dallas with my husband and my pets, pretty close by. My hobbies include dragon boating, gardening, and cooking. I own a little orchard out there and operate it as a wildlife refuge. So mostly I look at birds most of the time. Transplant from back east. My family moved to Oregon in 2012. So we've been here for a while. We really enjoy it. My qualifications include more than 20 years in government accounting and auditing. I hold a CPA license, and in addition, I'm a certified governmental financial manager, which means I'm certified to prepare financial statements, and I'm a certified information systems auditor, which I won't be auditing your systems here, but that does help me with your IT aspects as I'm doing your work here. I have 14 years of experience as a financial, federal compliance, and an IT auditor, so I have a pretty broad base. And I also have 5 years of experience on the other side of the table as a CFO, as a controller, working in operations. So feel pretty well positioned to be picking up what you guys are needing me to here at the shop. Finance department status. We're working hard to recover from the tragic and sudden loss of Susie. And I want to express my condolences to all of you that knew her. She seems like she was a really wonderful person, and I'm sad that I didn't get to meet her. I've been working, as Rochelle noted, as a temp capacity for about a month, and retired finance director Janet Chenard has been assisting me. I'm going to continue on, of course, and Janet is going to start to roll off. Here at the beginning, I need a lot of her help, of course, and that's going to continue for a few weeks. But after a while, it'll be a phone a friend situation, right? Where I just reach out to Janet for a couple hours a month, and that'll get less and less as it goes by. But much appreciate her institutional knowledge and her expertise getting things back up and running. Janet is focusing on budget and financials. The budget was close to being finished when Susie went out, and so she's finalizing that and getting it all finished up. And then the financials hadn't been done for a while, and so there's a lot of catching up at the same time that we're trying to prepare for the auditor. So super glad that she's here. Fiscal year 2025 year-end close is behind. And so we asked for a delay from the auditors. They were expected to come in a few weeks ago, but we asked them to delay it, and they set a new date of December 1st. So they'll still be coming soon, and we're working at lightning speed trying to get together all the schedules, all the data, all the information that they're going to need. Janet is working really hard to go through and do all the year-end close entries, complete all of the financial statements. And so that comes with the big mea culpa of the financials that I'm presenting to you this evening. There's lots of changes that are still occurring as we're finding journal entries, and there were even some between the time that I produced this report and today. So there's a few things in here that are still going to change, some beginning fund balances and things like that. But we wanted to make sure to get you Q1 financials so that you could see where we are at as far as the budget to actuals and the spending levels. Most of what will change will be journal entries and accruals. So those shouldn't have a huge significant difference, although they might change some surprising numbers by the time we see that Q2. Okay. Let's see. So over to my second page. So I'm going to read part of what I put in the report just because I want to emphasize it. So some of the things that Susie did were known, right? And we were working diligently to put those things back together. But there's a large part of Susie's work that was in her head, and she didn't have a backup. And so those unknown items, I just want to prepare you all for the idea that it might take us a significant amount of time to find out that we didn't file a report or we forgot to do disclosure, and we'll be making sure that we schedule and document those things so that in the future we don't have this kind of issue again. All right, on to the business part. In fiscal year 25, the city financed the purchase of a new and long-awaited senior center shuttle bus, partially with a very generous two-part $80,000 donation from the Friends of the Senior Center. The intention was to pay this off in July, and with the loss of Susie, that circle didn't quite get closed, and we're going to close that loop this week. We have the funds available to pay off from the city's portion from the general fund, and we have all the donation funds now, so we're going to go ahead and settle that debt immediately and get that taken care of. Over to the financials. Let's see. On page 3 of the financial document, and I need to put in a table of contents and page numbers in the future. I apologize, I will get to that. But including the cover page, page 3 has some data on it. And so mainly they're looking at the property tax bills that were sent out in Q1. We're not seeing a lot of property tax revenue, and that's anticipated because, of course, people's payments haven't started rolling in from those bills. So we'll see most of those revenues coming in quarters 2 and 3. So that's not unusual. Management, finance, police, and parks expenses are slightly ahead of the 25% that we expect at this point. And this is mainly due to the cost of temp employees in finance, myself included, overtime at the police department, and summer seasonal worker at the parks department. And so hopefully those will even out a bit more as the quarters pass on by. The non-department services is slightly below budget because we hadn't paid off that senior center bus. And so that'll come back up in the next quarter and catch on up. Over to page 4. On page 4, in my comment about street revenues, they are not ahead of expected budget, but they're over about $33,000 over what they were at this point in the last year. And so that's a good sign. Things are up just a little bit. And then building, street, and tourism revenues include fund balances and spending levels that are not expected to be that high. We're going to be adjusting that in the Q2 report. Just a little adjustment down will be coming that. Over to page 5 on the sanitary sewer fund. We're going to be monitoring the fund balance and discussing that with Russell to determine when and if there's a need for an upcoming bond issuance. In Susie's last report that she had left behind, she had noted that they had intended to issue bonds and they hadn't done it yet. And so her comment made me feel like it was urgent and imminent that we needed to do it. But upon talking to Janet about that, it didn't seem like it was such a pressing issue. So I want to make sure that we get Russell's input before we move forward and issue additional debt. We had some below normal activity for the system development charges across the board. I noted that, and we were not having that situation at this point last year. And so that's an area where I want to investigate and see if maybe something that Susie normally did is not getting done now, and we can pick up that stitch. All right, over to page 6.
And just a second.
Yes, ma'am.
Councilor Carey has a question.
A question relative to the SDC shortfall. When are SDCs collected?
That is information that I don't know yet because I'm so new. Rochelle, do you know the answer to that?
I'm looking at Suzanne, but I think it happens at the time during permits. Yes, when the building permit is picked up, they have to pay that, and they pay the SDCs and all the permit fees.
Okay.
It's totally dependent on development.
Sure. So that's development dependent. And like a number of other things where timing, can be a bit off, in terms of our property tax revenues and so forth. I wonder if it's the same thing, and I guess it's probably very similar to the system development charges, because if you don't have any development going on in the first quarter, but you got a bunch in the second, all of which was in the pipeline, it'll balance. So when I read that, I thought, that doesn't worry me too much if I have it in my mind right.
Right. Yeah. It's my hope that it'll catch up throughout the year.
Yeah.
Mainly, it's just I'm unfamiliar with this account and not used to what the revenues look like. And so I'll get a little more assurance of that as time goes by.
Yeah, it's more of an assurance to you than anything else. But because I believe that's the way it is. And so many things are cycle dependent and, when the money gets here and when the development occurs.
Right. Super helpful. Thank you, Councilor Carey.
Councilor Oberst.
And I would point out that the building industry nationwide is kind of slow right now, and that might have a lot to do with it.
That's true. Yeah. Construction is a little bit down right now, so hopefully that will come back around. All right, on page 6, interest on our operating accounts is down slightly, and that's because our interest rates are down a little bit as well. Our cash balances were almost identical to where they were at this point last year, and so hopefully interest rates will start to tick back up. On page 7, actually, I'm going to say Monthly budget to actual reports follow the reports that we've looked at so far, and most of these budget to actual reports present just more in-depth data of the reports that you looked at earlier. There are also a number of charts and graphs that Susie generally put into these reports, and I'm looking through them and evaluating them. I didn't have enough time to produce them all for you this quarter, and so I'm trying to see what is useful and what's duplicative. And so in the future, I'll be seeing what you find interesting and useful in these reports so I can make sure to carry that forward. All right, and Senior Center. Finally, on page 8, the beginning fund balance will be adjusted up by $3,500 due to fiscal year 25 expense where the funds are being returned to us. And so that money is going to be adjusted in the ending fund balance, which will make the beginning fund balance a little bit higher this year. Right, those are all my prepared remarks. I left plenty of time for questions because I was told that you are a council that likes to ask a lot of questions.
Yeah, really? Who would have said that about us? Yes, any questions for Amy, since we now have a reputation to uphold? I knew Councillor Carey would have something additional for you.
Well, I don't dare ask a question now after all of that. I would say this, and I really appreciated the narrative you provided, and it was clear and concise and was easy to follow. It wasn't overdone, wasn't underdone. The format was similar to what we're used to. So good on you for being clear in your communication. Much appreciated. Now, and not that others haven't been, it's just that you're new. And by the way, a warning to Russ, if he's in trouble, it's going to be Russell. You know, it's not, you know, it's Russell if he's in trouble. So anyway.
Thank you, Councilor Carey. Very helpful, and I will face up to Russ later. There you go. All right, well, thank you all so much. I appreciate your time this evening.
Thanks, Amy, and welcome. We really appreciate you stepping up to help and then deciding this was a place you wanted to stay. Really, really appreciate it.
Very happy to be here and very happy to be staying. Thank you all.
All right, and with that, we invite Suzanne Duffner back to the table to talk about, I thought you'd be bringing the framed piece of work with you for this. If you were going to, yeah, you should. I don't know if everyone stopped to take a look at this fun historic piece of art.
So what I'm holding is a framed signed copy of our House Bill 2647 that I'm going to be sharing more about with you tonight. That was specifically for the City of Monmouth's UGB land exchange. So yeah, be sure to check it out. Yay, yes, this deserves a round of applause for all involved. Big accomplishment for the city. So thanks to everyone involved in that. And I am very excited this evening to kind of kick off our local process to get this land exchange completed and bring in some more developable land for housing inside, much needed housing inside the City of Monmouth's urban growth boundary. So you have before you this evening a request to initiate a legislative amendment. That's Legislative Amendment 2502 that would consider amendments to the Monmouth Comprehensive Plan map and the urban growth boundary. So during the last or the 2025 regular legislative session, the legislature adopted House Bill 2647 that specifically authorized the City of Monmouth to complete a UGB land exchange under a more expedited process than the normal kind of onerous and costly land swap process that is authorized by statute. So Again, it was a big accomplishment. We had our former city attorney that helped draft the bill, and just a great collaboration with the governor's office and housing development partners in the community. So it was great to see all of that hard work pay off, and to have this bill and other communities now approaching us to see how they might be able to do something similar in their cities. And the bill, just by way of quick background, a reminder that really, I think what caught the legislature's ear on this is just how constrained our land supply has really become, and how unique that is to Monmouth, because it's all locked up in a few parcels of some parcels that are extremely constrained by flood hazards and wetlands, and unwilling property owners to annex. And so the swap will help us remove up to 90 acres that is impacted heavily by wetlands and floodplain, and then allow us to bring in slightly less acreage, 75 acres. But if you look at the net acreage in terms of what's buildable, once you take out those lands you can't build on, we'll actually have more productive land to do as many, if not more, units on that. So that is the goal with it. And then these procedures, we still need to assign new comprehensive plan map designation. So we didn't quite get out of all of the process with the bill. Yeah. But again, it's a lot less criteria that we'll have to go through to achieve the swap. So with this legislative amendment, it's a type 4 decision that's ultimately made by the council, but we'll need to place new comprehensive plan map designations both on the properties that are going out and then the properties that are coming in, and also get concurrent approval with Polk County, since it will impact their maps as well. So this is the first step in that process. Either the Planning Commission or the council has authority under our city code to initiate a type 4 legislative amendment. By initiating the amendment tonight, that will start the ball rolling on us doing the required notification to the state and property owners. And then we'll schedule the public hearings. There'll be a public hearing before the Planning Commission for a recommendation to give to you later. We're getting some of that work started early. The bill becomes effective January 1, so it will likely get to you in early January to have that adoption hearing, and then at which point it would go on to the county. So no real, like in terms of fiscal implications, no significant financial cost for the city to process this. That was one of the benefits of doing the expedited process instead of spending thousands of dollars on consultant time. So we have the direct cost of providing the notice to the paper, and there'll probably be some application costs, fee costs with the county. There was a little bit of GIS mapping service costs, but we're having the COG help us get nice professional maps and make sure that we're, getting good information about the properties that have constraints on them, so we can maximize most buildable land brought back in. So that's all underway. I've reached out to the incoming property owners and working on some annexation agreements so that we don't have the same problem with the land coming in, that it just sits there and doesn't move forward for meeting the city's housing needs. So, and they're being very cooperative with that process as well. So with that, you have two alternatives: to initiate the amendment or not initiate the amendment. There's a sample motion for you in the report on page 26, and I attached the unsigned copy of the bill in the packet. But yeah, you're welcome to see the real deal right here as well. But be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Councilor Obers.
I'd just like to go ahead so it was probably 10 years ago I ran into Paul Evans, our representative, at Bymark parking lot, and we talked about Monmouth's constraints. And it kind of perked along, and finally Suzanne and Paul got together and did what they did. And now she's got a lot of work ahead of her. I'm sorry, but not too sorry.
Yeah.
And I'd like to propose that we initiate legislative amendment 2502.
Second.
Thank you for the motion, Counselor Oberst, and the second, Counselor Lopez. Any additional questions for Suzanne, either about what we're doing or about the process ahead at this point? Counselor Ridgway.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I just want to make sure I kind of understand the process. So the motion before us tonight is to just initiate the process to move forward. And at the public hearing, there'll be more detailed information about the specific properties that would be swapped. Is that correct?
Absolutely. That's 100% correct. Yeah. And your actual decision on whether or not to approve the land swap or the UGB exchange, it will be after that public hearing, and you have to do that by ordinance adoption. So yeah, that's all to come in the future. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Counselor Lopez.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And thank you very much, Suzanne, for the monumental effort here. I don't have a question, but I would like to thank city staff for all the work that's gone into this. I'd like to thank our city manager, Rochelle Roden, and just recognize how monumental this is. This is something, my understanding, this has only happened maybe a couple times in state history, right?
Initially, I was told it was the third one done, the one I did in Dayton, but then at the, when we were at this, the state, I was told it was the fourth. So I haven't confirmed, but, so there's
Okay.
4 that have been done. There could be more since then.
All right, four-ish times in state history. And, you know, I know that I recognize that the urban growth boundaries are often, I'll say, not loved by cities because they constrain growth, right? I see this as hopefully paving a new way for this system to work as intended by the legislature originally. And I'm really proud of our city for undertaking this work to be able to pave that path, to hopefully create that path for other cities to be able to follow should they need to adjust. And you know, the protection of our rural spaces, our green spaces, our agricultural land, I think is, you know, one of the few things that keeps us from looking like other urban sprawl impacted areas. However, we do still need to grow, and this is a critical step in that. I just, again, want to thank you all for the work. There were a number of times that I didn't believe we'd ever see this day. So thank you.
Counselor Carey.
Thank you, Suzanne. Nice work on all parts. This will allow us to bring in, is it 75 or 70 net acres?
75 net acres.
75 net acres. So in order to get to the 75, we would deduct out those parts that are not developable.
That is correct. Wetlands, floodplain. Mm-hmm.
And the property owner, they have more than 75 acres available. In other words, are we likely to be caught short on this when we start inventorying wetlands, flood plains, all that?
Sorry, I'm not sure I'm completely understanding your question. Is the property to be swapped in larger than 75 acres? Was that your question, or?
I think, so John, you know, these are in completely different parts of town. So we're not talking about taking out part of a current parcel. We literally have a parcel of 90 acres in the south of town that will go out of the urban growth boundary, and we will bringing in 75 acres from the north part of town, completely different properties, not moving the urban growth boundary around on a single property.
There are two properties involved, and my question was related. We can bring in 75 acres, net acres, and we're offloading 90. Okay, and I guess what I was getting at is the people that own the land, they own more than, in the space, contiguous space, they own more than 75.
Yes, the parcel size. Yeah. Mhm, the gross acreage.
And when we do that, or when that comes in, is there, I just don't know how it works. Is there not a lot line adjustment necessarily, but a taxable area that needs to be, that would be a county issue.
Yeah,
But
so
does that make- I mean,
as
I'm just worried about something that
Yeah.
could slow the process.
Yeah. No, thank you for that. And I did my nice long Gantt chart of all the steps that still need to happen. So as part of that, and you'll see it in the ordinance when we get to that stage, there'll be a new legal description of the area that we're bringing in and our new UGB boundary. And so that will help the cartographer map makers, make them happy. Since we're doing kind of like a split zone piece, which can get tricky to track in the mapping system over time. And then when the property gets annexed and subdivided, that's when it'll actually peel off into a separate parcel. So we're not requiring them to do any kind of lot line adjustment at this point, but the legal description that the surveyors prepare will get at that issue. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, lots to come. All right. Seeing no further questions, Phyllis, will you please take the roll on the motion to initiate a legislative amendment 25-02 to consider amendments to the Monmouth Comprehensive Plan map and urban growth boundary?
Counselor Ridgway,
Aye.
Counselor Oberst,
Yes.
Counselor McKeel,
Yes.
Counselor Lopez,
Aye.
Counselor Carey,
Aye.
Counselor Belts.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Woohoo! All right. Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you for getting our pretty thing framed. That was pretty exciting. Even though we weren't able to have a signing ceremony with the governor yet, there was plans to, but it hasn't worked out. But we did get the signed copy. So at this point, I'm going to bring forward Russ Cooper to talk about the transportation systems plan, which has been a topic for months and months. And I will go ahead and say that when one gets the packet for a council meeting and you start looking at it and you see page 538 pages, one tends to panic a little bit. So I will say that this is the first of several opportunities we will have to discuss the 538 pages. Everybody, you don't have to go get your pajamas on. We're not going to be here all night talking through this thing, but appreciate the reminder of how we got here and the 30,000 foot view of what we're going to be talking about.
Thank you, Mayor Kuntz and members of council. And then to add on to that, even in my staff report, my attempt to try to help you with PDF pages, I did not think of the fact that it was going to be within a much larger PDF, and I apologize for that. So, and as we kind of get into this, I'll also, well, heck, why wait? Let's get to it right now. The bulk, the TSP body is this, and this is all the appendices which support this. And so, yes, I do apologize for that, but this has a lot of the data that supports the decision-making that went into the much smaller part of the body. Tonight, introduce Anthony Gamalo from DKS Associates. They're the consultant that is working on this, and Anthony's been the lead. Tonight, what I would like to do is just kind of go high level through the TSP. I'll read some, little excerpts out of it, and then Anthony will have some to share, and then we'll open it up for questions, and then we'll go from there. So the TSP is part of a legislative land use, I guess, state planning guidelines, and specifically statewide planning goal 12, which is transportation. In that, cities are encouraged to update their transportation plans routinely, and also that look for opportunities to reduce our reliance upon automobiles and encourage multimodal options. And as we get into looking at or identifying the project list, you'll see that this transportation system plan definitely has done a good job in moving toward identifying improvements in our system that are less reliant upon the automobile and provide more improvements for bikes and pedestrians. The City of Monmouth Transportation System Plan is a long-range plan that will guide the development of the city's transportation infrastructure over the next 20 years. This TSP aims to improve multimodal connectivity, modernize existing streets, and enhance pedestrian and bicycle facilities to serve the expected local and regional growth in Monmouth's urban growth boundary. Good. I want to make sure that's up. Monmouth is projected to experience significant growth. In 2020, we had a population of 11,110, and we're anticipating in 2045 a population of 16,527, and that's using the annual growth rate of about 1.95%, just a little less than 2%, which is derived from county efforts. The TSP process has emphasized public involvement and collaboration with our regional partners to ensure consistency with state, regional, and local planning regulations. In the staff report, I identified that we had 15 folks that served on the advisory committee, and then we also had a number of community outreaches, surveys, online surveys. All of those came together to provide information and help to build the content of this TSP. Transportation System Plan, long-range plan that sets the vision for a community. The primary tool for implementing transportation investment and provides a list of improvements required to reasonably serve the expected local and regional growth in Monmouth. The primary deliverable that comes out of this is a new multimodal project list, and also an update to our public works design standards, as well as an update to the code to align with all three documents, basically bring all three documents into alignment. What we used an anticipated revenue for transportation projects over the 20-year horizon of $14.6 million. That was based off kind of what kind of money have we brought in so far in the previous 20 years, and anticipating that that would be consistent moving forward. But in the total project list, there's like 90 projects that were identified in this TSP. The construction cost, estimated construction cost, is $173 million. So quite a difference in there in what we anticipate will generate and what the need might actually be in order to do all of those projects. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we move on. Chapter 2 of the TSP is kind of it's the vision chapter. It identifies the project's goals and objectives and how did we, what were the factors that were used in identifying and prioritizing projects. Chapter 3, the city's transportation system. That chapter gives kind of an overview of Monmouth's current transportation network, a little bit about the demographics of Monmouth, and just kind of helps set the picture for what is Monmouth today. Moving to chapter 4, that's where we start looking at the standards, new standards that are going to be applied in this TSP that will kind of lead to code changes, lead to updates in our transportation system plan. One of those main ones is the street functional, well, actually, it'll be the cross section, but street functional classification is an important tool for managing the street network. The functional classification system recognizes that individual streets do not act independently of one another, but instead form a network that works together to serve travel needs on both local and regional levels. And so, I mean, you're certainly aware that our transportation network is built up of streets that have higher volumes traffic. That's kind of the locals getting folks out to our arterials goes from local to collectors and then on out to arterial streets. One of the noticeable changes in our standard cross sections will be the addition of planter strips. That's something that we have in some parts of town, predominantly in our older and in some of our PUDs, but planter strips will become a component of all of our street cross sections. That'll serve it serves purpose of creating a barrier and some safety for pedestrians, but it'll also be an area where we'll begin to house our stormwater quality features as we develop those and move those standards forward as well. One of the changes is an increase in the minor arterial right-of-way width. It's going from 70 feet up to 80 feet. Those are mainly our ODOT roadways. And then our local roads are right-of-ways are going to decrease from a 60-foot right-of-way down to a 56-foot right-of-way. Those are the primary changes with the standard cross sections. Access management standards, there's going to be some changes there. Access management is a broad set of techniques that balance the need to provide efficient and safe travel with the ability to allow access to individual destinations. Appropriate access management standards and technique can reduce congestion and crash rates and may lessen the need for construction of additional street capacity. One primary access tool is the execution of access spacing standards, which provide required minimum distances between access points on public streets. So that's your public street to public street, how far are those spaced apart, or private driveways in along a street as well, how far apart you space those out. So in this, on a local street, we're going a minimum spacing was 150 feet. We're going to go up to 200 feet minimum spacing on minor collectors, and that's the distance from an intersection. The difference in driveway spacing on our minor collectors is going to increase from 50 feet up to 150 feet minimum. Major collectors from 100 up to 200 feet. And then arterials 200 up to 250 feet. So some kind of spreading those driveway spacing out. And then also our traffic impact analysis, the TSP is going to recommend that we make some changes in our code with how we implement our traffic impact when and how we implement a traffic impact analysis on development. Goal being one of them is to quantify safety as a measure to be studied. And then second is to update it so there's more specific criteria and with a level of expectation that the consultant needs to put into their work on the traffic impact analysis. Chapter 5 is I think in many ways is the bread and butter of what we're looking at, and that is the project development, the funding for projects. In this TSP, there's the project list has 14 projects that are street extensions, 10 projects that are intersection improvements, 41 projects that are bicycle or pedestrian improvements, 6 projects that are transit upgrades, and then 19 projects that are urban upgrades. I'm going to let Anthony discuss a little bit more about what those are. And then as you move through chapter 5, you get to the financially constrained project list, which takes that $173.8 million worth of projects down to a smaller list of $14 million worth of projects. And these are projects that were identified as high priority, high value, based on the criteria that was established through the process. It doesn't prevent or keep the city from looking at other projects within that larger list, but these are the projects that as we kind of shook the sifter, these are the ones that came to the list. And then chapter 5 ends with neighborhood traffic calming measures that are open for consideration. And I think I'll turn it over to Anthony, have him give a little bit of feedback on, the content of and why the appendices, and also I know he's got some additional information as well.
Sure. Thank you. Again, my name is Anthony Gamalo. I'm with DKS Associates as a project manager for the update to the Monmouth TSP. I've worked with Russ now 2 years on this project, and I'll start out by saying that I'm really impressed by Monmouth's city staff. They were great to work with and continue to be great to work with, and are super enthusiastic, and it's been a great process. I'll start out by explaining that. Yeah, I'll send you my Venmo later. I'll start out by explaining the massive amount of file space or paper that might be in front of you right now. The appendices are actually the 5 tech memos that were put together throughout the process. The first tech memo was goals and objectives, looking at what does the city want to achieve through this transportation system plan. That's without looking at projects, that's without looking at the previous TSP. You want to go into that as blue sky as possible. And then looking at existing conditions, what are we working with now with the city, what's there? Then future conditions, what is modeled out to be either a problem potentially in the future, or something that would need to be addressed based on growth or any other potential issues. We identified intersections that if you pour through all that paper, you'll see that the language says those intersections are expected to fail by the horizon year of 2045. How people hear that, they imagine, like Manhattan or something, like apocalyptic scenes of traffic. That's not the case. It's just that it's not, the growth might cause that intersection to not function at the level that you would want it to. Then looking at, so that's the third tech memo. Fourth is project identification. That's where you come up with your whole universe of projects. That's the 90 that Russ talked about. And then fifth is kind of narrowing down to the last tech memo is narrowing down to that financially constrained list. That's looking at what the city's finances are with regards to transportation projects, and looking back, I think we looked back 10 years and then forecast that forward to the horizon year of 2045, and narrowing down using the criteria that were established in the goals and objectives memo, narrowing down that project list to what we want that financially constrained list to look like. And throughout that whole process, there was a robust public participation, which was really, again, really impressive for a city of Monmouth size. I was especially impressed by the enthusiasm of your bicycle and pedestrian community. They were, Councilor Oberst in particular was instrumental in guiding that effort. It was, for someone who doesn't live in, I live in Salem, for someone who doesn't live in Monmouth and has been through here a few times, it was so impressive. The number of people that came out that attended our open house that we had here in this room, and actually helped guide us as staff through what they wanted to see, through what they thought was an issue, through their concerns, and through their hopes for the future. That really helped the process throughout developing those 5 tech memos and refining that effort into the final plan that you have in front of you. So, but overall, the details, I think Russ did a great job covering the high level stuff. In the end, what this TSP is really aimed to be is, what does the city want to do for transportation? How is the city going to do it? How are they going to fund it? And that is going to empower your city staff when they're going out looking for funding, looking for grants opportunities, all that kind of thing. So this is really going to be the playbook that your city staff uses going forward to continue to build on this already robust transportation network here in the city. Thanks.
And then as far as next steps in the process for kind of finalizing this, we'll because there's some changes or proposed standard changes, those will impact development code. So we're working on identifying what amendments need to be made to the development code. So that will come in a package and an ordinance as well. We'll try to bring the TSP and that together at the same time for adoption, so that we're not having a window in time where the two aren't. So yeah, with that, open it up for questions.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thanks, Anthony. I appreciate you getting involved with our engaged community. We hear that a lot about our people. And I just have a couple of questions for you, and then I'll entertain from council. What do you think Monmouth's been doing right And what do you think our biggest challenge is?
Those are great questions. I think some of the inherent strengths that Monmouth already has in place. There's already kind of a grid network in place. There's some so there's good connectivity. The trolley is an enormous strength. I know Councilor Belts likes to hear that. There's already that the bike ped awareness. I know that the city recently undertook an effort to secure safe routes to school funding and implement some projects using that. So the will is there, and that's already like the hardest part, right? And what could be improved, I think, or challenges, obviously having an ODOT facility running right through the center of town, east and west and north and south, comes with challenges. And yeah, I'm being as diplomatic as possible. It comes with its own set of challenges. And I know during our planning commission work session a couple of weeks ago, the question was asked about 99 possibly widening in the future. And I had to answer, I don't see that happening. I don't think ODOT or in generally, the trend is not going towards adding capacity to roadways, it's managing demand. So what I think is going to be the challenge for every city everywhere in the United States, but for Monmouth specifically, is going to be how to manage that demand, how to continue to bring transit and bicycle and pedestrian efforts to the forefront, right? To get people out of their single occupancy vehicles as much as possible, when it's possible. You're not always going to be able to do it, but any percentage that you can subtract that number makes a big difference, right? It makes a big difference for congestion. It makes a big difference for greenhouse gas emissions and all the things that I know the city of Monmouth has stated they want to do through this document, and everyone from the state on down has stated. So I think that's going to be the big challenge, is to continue to bring those other modes into the forefront.
Thank you. Yeah, Councilor Lopez.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. What an undertaking. I'm saying that a lot tonight. My question actually has to do with the other large item that we discussed tonight, that UGB swap. So as I look at the maps and as I look at, our existing plan, I look to the north edge of town and see some streets lined in that don't exist yet. And then I think to the south edge of town, the area of town that is not yet in our urban growth boundary, but will be very soon. What steps do we take to form this plan to incorporate that new direction of growth for the city?
So any TSP through its existence is going to undergo amendments, right? And that process is going to go through your planning commission and through your city council. What typically you want to do is identify over time, because an amendment is it's a big deal. It's an involved process. Multiple issues that arise, right? If there's a development coming in that wasn't that was not part of the picture when this was put together, you kind of keep that in your mind. And this land swap, right, that was discussed tonight, that would be something. So all those things, you keep them, and when you reach what you feel is a critical mass, then you undertake that amendment process, right? And that would involve amending the maps. You might need to amend a couple of the projects, but the idea Certainly for like some of those roads in the northern area, what we discussed was the potential of development down the road. And in the event that development happens anywhere, it behooves the city to be ready to pass those costs to the developer, right, to construct those roads. And they've been identified. You can then say to you make the compelling case to the developer that this is in our TSP, our code. You need to construct it if you want to build this development here, right? So it's just another way to empower the city to not only to seek transportation funds, but to defray those costs, right? So going back to your question, just keep these things in mind for when you're going to do a document amendment. It might be a year, 2 years, 3 years from now.
Thank you. One more question, if I may. Thank you. The new road design structures, right, with the green spaces separating vehicle traffic lanes and walking path sidewalks. I love that design. I was very happy to see that incorporated here as a design at really all levels of street. What can we do as a city to merge the existing streets designs that don't reflect that structure with the new standards? Clearly, that won't happen overnight, but what types of things should we be thinking about to try to bring the rest of our community into that space with the street design, so that we can ensure those walkability scores, ensure that safety level exists throughout our town as a whole?
So it's much harder to redevelop than it is to develop a green space, right? And it's for exactly, this is the idea here, is that when there's redevelopment taking place, they'll have to do it to these standards, right? And you have them, whoever the entity is doing the development, improving that, doing the half street or possibly whole street improvement to that standard, right? And so in the areas that already are developed, like in a downtown, it can often happen piecemeal, right? But another tool that many cities utilize is a bond measure, right, to do an entire corridor improvement to the standard that's been identified in the TSP, right? So if the city feels inclined to do that at some point in the future, this would be the tool that you would use to implement it.
And there's 19 projects that are called urban upgrade projects, and those projects, that's kind of what these would do, is they look at the cross section and try to implement the new cross section standards into those projects.
Thank you. That's very helpful. I appreciate the work.
Councilor Obert.
I have a series of little things, and then one that I'd like to just bring up and see how you all feel about. First of all, one of the things I love, it took you 2 years, and there's at least a few things in this that are already done, like the crossing at Church and the sidewalks down Church and around to Monmouth Elementary. And that's all in my neighborhood, so I'm very familiar with that. But I appreciate that we've gotten things off the list before the list is even approved. And I think that's a pretty good step. And on your comment about the trolley and getting people out of cars, and I noted that when I find myself in line behind the trolley and there's 6, 8, 10 people on it, I figure that's 3, 4, 5 cars that aren't in line in front of me, right? And I don't ride it as much as I probably should, but it's a great addition to the community. And I'm our representative of the Senior Advisory Board, and I mentioned the trolley and got a bunch of questions from them about it, the members of that board, and they're very excited to have that. And even, again, they may not use it, but they recognize the utility. This is just a little side. I pushed for green strips for years before I was even on council. And the answer I got from most of the old timers in town was, well, we like the sidewalks right up on the curb. That way you can step out of your car and onto the sidewalk instead of into the grass. Well, maybe you have to give a little and you get a little in safety of the pedestrians, right? So this is 15 or 20 years ago now. When I was mayor, I approached the then city manager about the idea of taking what I saw in Edwards Addition with curb bulb outs everywhere and having that become part of our standard development code. And I was approached shortly thereafter by our then Russ, our then public works director, who said, "Oh, we hate those curb bulb outs in Edwards Addition. A street sweeper can't sweep them." And I said, maybe we could set up an obstacle course and see what you can sweep and then design to that. And the answer I got to that was, well, why don't we just wait till somebody says they want to build them and then we'll figure that out. So in other words, I got total pushback on this and total resistance. I look on page 27 in the document, and that would be 62, I think, of our packet. And there's a note of curb extensions, while not required, are encouraged. And if we're focusing on becoming a pedestrian friendly town, I would suggest, while not required, be pulled out of that and say, let's make curb bulb outs a standard thing at just about everywhere, except maybe local street to local street intersections. Even there, that's not a bad idea. By having, if it's a through street, having that narrowing at the intersection, that visual narrowing slows people down. For pedestrians, it narrows the distance you have to put yourself at risk out in traffic. And I think for safety all around, that just saying in new development, and I'll point out that since I made that suggestion, we've had very little new development in town. So we didn't lose a lot of ground, but with this, as you noted, Chris, this addition of upcoming land, that if everything falls right, we should see development out there, before too long. That not requiring that, I believe, is a missed opportunity. And we might want to go ahead and, I know it's a minor editorial change, but I think it's a big one. So I'll leave it at that. Thanks.
Councilor Ridgway.
Thank you. Looking over the plan, I don't necessarily have concerns with the plan, but a couple things that you mentioned were a little concerning to me, just looking long term. The projections for population growth, granted they're just estimates, but imagining another 5,000 folks living in Monmouth over the next 20 years. And with the kind of the paradigm of, I forget how you phrase it, managing demand over increasing capacity. I have a hard time imagining that out of the growth that is expected, that a large number of those folks are going to be commuting and traveling just locally to a degree that just increasing local transit is going to meet those needs. There's still going to be a large number of folks commuting outside of town to their places of work, to other venues, and just looking. I've traveled a lot of freeways within Oregon just for my professional needs, and the same thinking that's regressive to me, that we have freeways that have 2 lanes and for miles and miles up 205, and lack of capacity that they offer. So I'm concerned that if our plan doesn't involve some sort of adjustment for an increased capacity over time, that we're going to end up with more gridlock than what we can manage with an increased population. How would a plan that we develop now, how would that mesh with or work with that paradigm of managing demand?
The idea is to encourage those other modes, and this is something that is this conversation is happening all over Oregon right now. In 2022, many of the laws changed regarding the ease with which capacity can be added to roads. it's been made much more difficult, for lack of a better term. So if, for example, particularly on a road like 99 or Main Street, it would be it would be a very involved process. Now, it would have been before, but now much more so, to add any kind of lanes, even turn lanes, on those roads that don't already exist. The direction from the state level on down to all the agencies has been that adding capacity is more or less a last resort. So it can be done, but the difficulty level is increased, and with that, the cost is increased, because it's just going to take more staff time or consultant time to make it to even get close to making it happen. So the idea is to really look at alternatives. That could be, like we said, encouraging transit, encouraging bicycle and pedestrian uses within town. It could be enticing employers to allow commuting or telecommuting, or staggering work hours to defray some of those peak travel times. But yeah, it's being encouraged to get creative, to get away from adding capacity.
And I think I'd add that the capacity adding type of projects are probably in a future TSP, not in this one. The part of the work back here is taking data at intersections and along 99 and extrapolating the growth, and even at that, there were only a few, if there were intersections that were failing, they were on 99 in that 20-year horizon. And that's looking at, the data based on anticipated growth. If our region experiences different, higher growth, then yeah, it would make sense that those intersections or those areas may fail sooner. But
just a follow up. I know we've talked, as part of the transportation discussion, we've talked about a lack of arterial streets that run, was it north and south through the city. We don't have a whole lot of bypasses besides the highways. And I haven't had a chance to digest the whole 500 and however many pages there are, but I'm hoping that some conversation progresses with mining to those arterials and developing alternate routes to safely navigate through a city if there was an emergency, or if there was traffic jams or what have you, crashes. I just think that's an important part of the conversation as well.
So we do call for some projects. There's the new streets that we call for. There's also some street extensions that we call for that would help to complete what is already a good grid network, but to make it more robust, and would thus defray some of that demand in the event of an interruption to one of the streets due to a crash or something else, to provide those options to go around it.
Yeah, one of my first things that I penned down after Mayor Kuntz asked about weaknesses maybe or areas for improvement and or challenges, what I wrote down was environmental features that we have, and with Ash Creek and I'm blanking on what the protection corridor is called, but and so we've got features that make constructing those roads south more difficult. But what we are doing is looking at the ones that we have and seeing how we can invest in those to ensure that those are brought up to better standards, more accessible, and So.
Yeah, and I think Councilor Ridgway, where I see that, it's what, page 69 of our packet, but I think it's like 32 or something of the plan, is where it's got that cool map, and it's the projects are identified by what they do, what service they provide, and so those street extensions are all in the purple. And that's where you'll see most of them are going north or they're on the south end of town. And so that's exactly what Russ is talking about, is all of those on the north end would have to cross over a lot of creeks and wetlands and floodplains. So not so fun to get those done. And I also would like to point out, since the chief is in the room, that he and I hear a lot about a particular intersection that isn't addressed here, and that would be Bentley and Heffley. So I'm just going to bring that up because we have regular correspondence on that intersection, because it's one of the weirdest ones I've ever seen in a small town, and not sure that you can address it, but I see it's not on here.
It is a very unusual intersection, and we have, I know the Transportation Commission has discussed that intersection some, and yes, I'll leave it at that. I agree with you. It does pose some challenges for us, and probably some form of a total reconstruction of the intersection that realigns and is certainly worth considering. Didn't come up during all of the kind of the public outreach part of the project, but that doesn't mean it shouldn't be an identified project.
Thank you. Councilor Belts.
I just wanted to note that there is a whole field of science called transportation demand management, and I was a certified transportation demand management practitioner for many decades. There are a variety of balancing acts that one must consider if we're going to have more people and we're going to have them living somewhere, but then we're going to widen roadways. We have to find that balance between where we're going to have people housed and widening roadways. We have seen statistically 12 to 15% of people are more than willing to either carpool, vanpool, bike, walk, or use transit to go to work. As population grows, those numbers just naturally increase. And proof of concept, unfortunately, was COVID. People can work from home. And when you want to talk about cleaner air, fewer people on the highways, that's when we showed, unfortunately, that could work. And so it's behavior change. People will simply start looking at how much is it costing me to get to work? Can I work from home 3 days a week? Can I flex my time? Employers build vanpool programs and they subsidize them so that their employees have a way to get to work. So there are programs, and again, it's a whole science. There are ways that we can do this going forward. We're making more people. We're not making more land. We have to figure this out. It's been proven we cannot build our way out of it. If you expand a highway or a freeway, more people come and use it. It does not make things happen any smoother over time. So.
Councilor Roberts.
Yeah, I was just going to ask with our transportation professionals here on both sides of the dais that my understanding is, like up in Portland, they threw a fourth lane on parts of I-5 on the south edge of town. And it has not made traffic flow more smoothly because people who are using other routes said, oh, look, it's another lane that's bound to be better. And so now they use I-5, and I-5 is as jammed as it was before they added the lane. And so, often expanding facilities, if I have this right, you expand facilities and it does absolutely nothing to improve traffic flow.
This was a longer time ago than I want to admit, but back in grad school, one of the first things I learned was that you can't pave your way out of congestion, right? And whoever came up with that phrase is a genius, because that one stuck. Yeah.
Professor Donald Shoup.
Yeah.
Anything? Yes, Counselor Carey.
A couple of things, and I admit I've not read this thing. I scanned almost all of it, but I didn't read it for detail. One of the things you mentioned, Russ, in your comments had to do with the, I believe the local right-of-way is going to be reduced from 60 to 56.
Correct.
Primarily in residential areas. The concern I have about that is we've changed our housing code, our development code, to minimize the number of off-street or to minimize the number of off-street parking spaces made available to the property owner, which is going to drive more until they're all gone. It's going to drive more people parking on the street and have more street parking in those sorts of residential areas. And of course, we're all hopeful that there'll be fewer cars, blah, blah, all that. That seems to be, I'm a little nervous about that. We're in our development code, we're really encouraging more people to park on the street. That'll be the net result. And we're providing less space for that. I don't have the profile in front of me, but that makes me ask, and I'm sure that it wasn't, but to what degree did you consider the development code changes that have been made as we overlay them and provide transportation to and from those new development areas?
Sure. So the idea, the primary motivation behind narrowing local streets is safety and reducing vehicle speeds, allowing for the planter strips, the pedestrian facilities, and the narrowing of the street. People just innately will slow down the narrower street is. Now, by narrowing it, I'm not sure that we're adding more parking per se.
No, you're not. I don't believe you are, but you're going to get more.
But we're not reducing any. We have one project that calls for a transit stop that would eliminate, but it's only like 2 parking spaces. But parking was a discussion point throughout the process. We did hear from folks that they didn't want to lose parking also. So yeah, it's kind of a balance. But it's something that the city could approach in the future if you want to reduce parking.
Yeah, and actually in the cross section, I'm just looking at the numbers here. Most of the reduction is not in the asphalt width, but it's in the right of way width. So really what the effect is that I guess it provides more land for development and less for roadway. It still provides 2 travel lanes that are 9 feet wide and 7 foot parking lanes. That particular cross section does have that effect of slowing folks down when they're driving and there's cars parked on both sides. It makes you uncomfortable, I think, is what it does. And maybe that's I don't know if that's what you're speaking to, but as a driver, it does cause you to want to slow down and proceed with caution.
Yeah, I understand that logic and I'm not sure that I disagree with it, but to make things narrower, to make things effectively more dangerous and rely on the driver to make it less dangerous, sort of puts the onus on the drivers. And I hope that's true, and I hope that works. And it's not uncommon, and it's good to know that we're not really reducing the lane of the travel. There's still parking available and so forth. As I looked at this, and I hope we'll have another shot to look, but there's a large emphasis on bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure in the 17 highlighted at the moment. And I support that. I think it's a good idea. I think it's sort of the coming thing. How do we promote, and this is not necessarily your deal, but it's a rhetorical question. How do we promote more bicycle and pedestrian use? I don't see many bicycles on our streets. I wish we did. And I know that, well, okay, you build it and they'll come. I get that. But in terms of the positioning of some of our sharrows, the shared roads, I think we've got it on Main Street right now. I think there's some discussion about maybe pushing those to Clay, the particularly west of 99, to Clay and Jackson, which are less. I mean, that's the way they've done it in a lot of the areas in Portland. You don't see those on Broadway and Widener on the east side. You see them over on, I don't remember the names of the streets now. My son used to live on one of them. And that's much more quiet. It's good to go. So hopefully that will be a discussion as we move forward. And I think we all collectively need to look at ways to promote bicycle and pedestrian use. I think as it relates to and I'm glad to see the wider sidewalks, 5.5, 5.5 foot wide sidewalks, I think in most cases. That's great. That's walkable. In my neighborhood, there are 4. And they've got power poles in the middle of them. So nobody walks on them. And they've got those curb cutout or the driveway cutouts that are impossible to deal with if you're in a wheelchair or if you're in because I've been in that and I've been in the transportation chair as well. You can't do it. So I think articulation may be in part of this, and whether it could be factored into this, I don't know. Could be articulation with power and light to see where we've got those real conflicts. I think that would be beneficial if we're really serious about this. The things that I look at and will continue to look at, and I'm a little bit like Councilor Oberst, I'm glad to see that some of them are done. And I'll just quickly go through the list, and that is that, to move the bike lanes and the sharrows onto secondary collectors, like, I'm not sure that's the right term, but Clay and Jackson, get them off Main Street. Nobody rides on Main Street because it's too fast. Nobody or seldom do. I think we need to anticipate, and I didn't see much with it, the increased traffic we'll get on North Monmouth. With that fairly large development up there, we're going to need to make sure that, Monmouth Avenue going that way is adequate, and then that it feeds in, and for that matter, goes back to Hoffman. That's a hell of a lot of units out there, and there's more planned. And the same and Councilor Lopez mentioned this, there is an intersection study, I believe, on Stadium and Church, but we're going to need to access. There's going to be a fair amount of traffic coming out of that when this development happens. It seems to me on a street that does not, that you got to go left or you got to go right because you can't go through the one way on campus if you're coming to the east. There could be a significant number of homes out there, a significant amount of residents. We already have the churches out there, and we've been able to manage them because it's a fairly limited, narrow time frame. But if you get a more regular deal, so I think in my mind, I'd like to see. I'm hoping that there's something in here that I didn't find in my scan that would address that. I have occasionally drive on Warren Street south. Going south of town that way. With the advent of the Southtown apartments, there's a lot of traffic, and that's a horrible it's a horrible road. It's a horrible street. And there's really very little curb and gutter. It's cement. It's terrible in my mind. I'm glad to see that there's significant discussion about the Whitman and Main Street. That's a difficult intersection as well, and I'm really glad to see that in there. And I'd like to find a way to get rid of the gravel streets that we have in town. I mean, what part of Gwynn Street has gravel? I know we're talking about an extension going through. We're a modern city, for crying out loud, and we don't have gravel in there with chuck holes and everything else. So I'm anxious for that. We're talking about managing. We're not going to have a lot more capacity. I get that, but in terms of managing the flow, if that's the term, there's 3 ways to get across Ash Creek. From the city of Monmouth, and we've got developable land up there to the north. And I understand the conservation easement. I understand that. I understand the sewage lagoons, but we really need to look at a way to get across that deadgum creek so we can meet some of our housing demands. So that's got to me, and that's got to be an issue. Once you get that, then I think that would alleviate a little bit of the problem that we get at 99 and 51. That's an intersection that's doomed to fail, I believe. Part of that is we've got no north-south other than that way. We've got no east-west other than that way. And I know Gwynn is noted, but I'm not sure whether that solves it all. So those are our big issues in my mind. And I understand there's all kinds of things that we have to deal with, but in terms of what matters to Monmouth and to this, this lone city councilor, those are the issues that I think we need to find a way to get to. And you're right, this can be amended, but if there's consideration and if there are reason and rationale to tweak some things, let's do it so we don't have to amend it. Let's get it, I don't want to say get it right the first time, because this is right. This is darn good. But if we can make it a little better, then we would save ourselves the heartburn of the difficult task of amending it. So thanks for your work. I look forward to more discussion and more time to read this, because it's excellent work. It's fascinating. It's fascinating. And it's really necessary. But I hope we can apply some of the contemporary things that I think we need in Monmouth. Thank you. Appreciate the work, Russell.
Yeah, what'd you say, Russell? I was sitting in a hole over there that I couldn't hear what was being said. Anyhow, so I know there was some joke about my name. Somebody called me Russell. Good.
If you're in trouble, it's Russell, baby. Yeah. Otherwise, it's Russ. Welcome to the party, Russ.
Well, I was sitting here feeling like somebody called me Russell as you were listing off the projects, and as you were listing them off, I was looking to see if they were in our project list, and thankfully they all of those are. They're either listed as urban upgrades or not sure what extension roadway extensions, and so that makes me feel better or supports the fact that this document does represent Monmouth. Those projects may not have made the financially constrained list, but they are projects that we can look at development and say, you're having an impact. Our TIA says that these are intersections or areas that need to be addressed for safety concerns or functionality. And so that's the advantage also of having that larger list of projects in here as well. So thank you for that.
And I'm just going to, if we can talk quickly about those next steps. You've mentioned it here in our staff report, that we do have plenty more opportunities to talk about this. So Councilor Roberts, I know you've had You've had a lot of input on this plan at the right spot early on. I know us changing it now isn't Anthony's favorite thing in the world. So I'm going to let you do one quick comment, and then Russ, remind us all the next times people will have input on this, and we'll move on.
So my first one quick comment is I'm responsible for the Sharrows on Main Street, John, because before we had bike lanes on 99, you came to the east side of that intersection on Main Street and you looked and said, where do I go now? And so I pushed hard on that. I would also point out that I lived in Eugene for about 5 years and didn't have a car for the first 3 because they are so bike oriented. And the reason they are is because they built the bike facilities. We build a network of labeled bike routes in this town, and bike utility will go up. People will ride bikes more. Right now, people don't know exactly where they should be. When you tag a bike route, cars say, I don't want to be here. This is where the bikes are, right? And to clarify John's comment, we talked about taking out off-street parking in residential districts, which would result in more on-street parking than we would typically see. I think that's where the concern lies. That's all I got.
Go ahead. Just quickly though, and if it's kind of specific input, we'll have other opportunities.
What Eugene has done is put together bike, as you all know, off street. So to have just a bike path, this is where you go, is what we have in Main Street. I was on the bike ped committee when that was discussed. And as a bicycle rider, I went, that's not where you put those. But that's the designated place to ride the bicycle. So it's going to have to be something that's enjoyable to ride, which is what Monmouth does not have. I pack up my bicycle and I drive to Eugene so that I can ride the bicycle in their areas. And it would be great if we did that here.
All right, timeline, next steps, reminder.
I guess I need a little more feedback on when you want to have more opportunities to look at this. Would you like this to come back in another work session, or are you all right with it coming back as a document for adoption?
So if we said, hey, we're good, move forward, this would go for the, we have additional public hearings, right? So why don't you talk about what that process would be?
Right. So currently, Anthony and his team are working on the code amendments and making sure that we have those in place. So that's got another probably 3 or 4 weeks to get the code amendments drafted in a track change manner and the ordinance drafted. Then we can kind of gauge when we need to do our announced 30-day notice for public hearings. We would take it to Planning Commission first for first public hearing, and then if they agree to recommend it, then we would bring it maybe the next week to council for adoption, public hearing and adoption. And I'm thinking sometime after the first of the year is what's realistic.
One of the things I think that would be helpful, and you're going to need it for a public hearing whenever it occurs, you're going to need to have sort of a bullet pointed, truncated executive summary, which is there, but that details out what the plan is, because you're not going to put that up public notice for a public hearing with the full extensive report that's there and expect people to digest that and be able to ask an intelligent question. So if there could be, it could be wintered into this is what we're trying to do. This is what, and where our emphasis would be, 2-page document. I don't know what it would be, but something less than what we have. And what we have is great. It's just not consumable by the public, in my opinion. So I think that'd be really helpful.
So, well, that wouldn't be in the notice. The notice has to be a standard sort of pro forma public meeting notice, but links to the documents. And so when you get a chance maybe to go through this in more detail, if you want to highlight some of the pages you think would be helpful for that summary or some of the things, I think because clearly it has to say all of this stuff, and we know people won't be reading it, but maybe based on the comments they got at different town hall events, they will know what is of interest to people and what are the few highlights people really need to know. But if you have thoughts on that, I'm sure they'd appreciate that. I think Russ's question though is, do we need another work session on this before we put it out to public hearing? Do we feel we need to really dig into this some more and give them more feedback we want to see in the final plan?
I don't know yet because I haven't had a chance to read the document. All right? I mean, you're asking me, do I need more work session time on something I have not had an opportunity to read all of because I was given a 500-page document
Okay,
4 days before community?
That's John's vote. Carol, thumbs up, ready to kind of go forward with this, knowing there's going to be changes eventually? Or do you want to spend more time on this draft?
I would like to spend a little more time on this, yes.
John?
Yeah, I can go either way. I mean, these guys are experts. They know what they're talking about. I mean, the only thing that I'm interested in here is how we can communicate that to our, our residents. And if it's something that whether it or not, I don't know. I could go either way. I'm ambivalent. I mean, I trust you guys, but I've also got questions. Trust but verify, I think it was what it was.
Just a sec, let me get the temperature down here. Is that okay?
I'll join Councilor Carey in his ambivalence. I could go either way. I do have some level of comfort with it, seeing part of the process, being involved at multiple points in the process and seeing the high level of community engagement, as well as the detailed studies that have occurred throughout many of our key intersections. I do have additional questions. I will likely always have additional questions, but I do believe that I've seen enough that I could feel comfortable in my questions.
Well, I'm leaning more toward, I worked with Anthony for decades now, it seems like. I do trust the expertise. Yes, there will be questions. However, I'm comfortable moving forward at this point.
I've not read the whole 500 pages. I don't know that I need to. To me, it seems clear the goal is the 15-minute city model. I don't know that I need to explore that further. So I would be okay with tonight being it.
Go ahead, Carol.
So my apprehension is, and I wish I had read this more thoroughly, but I did not see in here taking the concern that we have with people riding bicycles and put them into this plan. And I don't see like the narrowing of the road as a, and I ride my bike here all the time, except when it's pouring rain. But I don't see an encouragement in this plan for people to ride their bicycles. And so that's really where I would like to focus this of what we can do, because I don't see that as drawn out in this plan as I wish it would be.
And that's an interesting perspective. And as Anthony mentioned, we had a ton of input from our Transportation Commission, who, as we know, are also very bike centric. So the fact, and maybe it's the way the process is steered, which isn't towards how do we tell people let's ride bikes. It's here's some code development. It's a little more technical than that. But I hear, and I'm not a bike rider, and I'm not Roxanne, that we are encouraging future development to be more bike and pedestrian friendly. This isn't we know we don't have the money to go back and fix what we've got now. So I think that's maybe a balance that's not part of this plan, because it's not about fixing everything we have, but how do we encourage going forward? And I don't know how involved each of us was at all the hours of meetings that have been held on this thing. So that's obviously when a lot of that input was moved forward. I agree. I feel 100% confident that you listened to the voices you've mentioned. You mentioned that there was public engagement. You mentioned our transportation commissions. So I feel confident that as much as possible, you have represented that. And I think just looking at that financially constrained list, if you look at that and see how much of that is focused on ped bike as opposed to streets and big intersections and pavement, I feel really, really pretty good that this will reflect the values that we want to build towards. So I'm more comfortable with letting it go forward as is, and we'll be working on things over the next 10 years that could change it. Councillor Bell.
Typically, with a transportation system plan like this, my understanding is it would be then our responsibility to a certain extent about what is the marketing and communication plan about the education of the community. All of us know, I believe all of us know what we want to see. And it's not the build it and they will come. However, if cyclists feel safe, if the facilities are there, then cyclists do start using it. But just like with Safe Routes to School programs, you have to start. And that, I think it'll behoove us to do the marketing, communication, and outreach about this.
You know, I really come back to the idea of winnowing this down to something that's digestible, and something that the public can understand, the council can understand. You know, once we read it again or for the first time, depending. You know, so there may be some things that pop out if we give it. And whether it comes in an open public hearing or whatever it might be, you know, one of the things we talk about carpooling, there's no reference to a park and ride lot here. You know, I mean, if you want to have that, let's get a park and ride lot somewhere. Now, maybe that's not part of the transportation program, but that happens. And, you know, that could be helpful going south or going north, you know, I mean, to be able to serve both. But I really think it's important to be able to get it down and then to be able to explain, because whether that actually goes towards pedestrian or bicycles is hard to tell on the bike/ped. Does that solve our problems in the next near medium term horizon? I think that's the case that's going to need to be made. You know, is that going to solve our problem between Independence and Highway 99 from like 2:30 until 4:30, where you're bumper to bumper, and and increasingly up and down 99? That'll be the question.
I think those are great questions, and those, you're right, may come up, and we'll address them when they do by saying ODOT's not going to increase the lanes, and so it's our job to figure out how to let people know how not to be on the roads between those times, right? I'm going to go with, we will not have an additional work session. We're gonna let it go. We're going to, you've heard some great feedback here tonight, but you've heard a lot of feedback over the last 2 years. And I think let's go with this, and whatever little tweaks you make. We have opportunity to show up at Planning Commission. We have opportunity at our public hearing to kind of go through this again. But I think it reflects the value. I mean, look, folks, we have 2 rapid flashing beacons on freaking Highway 99. Look how long that took us. So let's keep getting these things done as we can. And spend all of this money that we've spent. Let's say we spend it wisely. Here's some great opportunities. We'll be out there looking for money to make them happen. So I feel comfortable with moving this forward to the next step. And Carol and John can have a private
As long
meeting
as
with you
look
later.
For more stuff for bicycles.
After they've had a chance to read it. All right. Thank you both very much. Thank you, Anthony. And yeah, great work and great discussion.
I would just like to say, I think I came off maybe kind of strong about bicycles, but I do appreciate the work that you've done. And there is stuff in here. I just wish it had been a bit more. But thank you. Thank you very much.
We do have a couple more things. Can we get a 5-minute break in? All right, 5-minute break. Please return here by 8. I'll give you 7 minutes, 8:50.
Dennis, can you unmute and see if we can hear you?
Yes, I'm here. Are you able to hear me?
Can you talk again?
Yes, I'm speaking now.
Can you hear him? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's just need to go home. No, we had a presenter at. We had a. Oh, well, but last time it was the guy's own microphone, because when he called in, it was fine. Yeah, it was.
I'm gonna head out there.
Okay. Did you start that, Phyllis? Too late, Chris. That's it.
So when you were a kid, your mom or dad used to make promises. I said, when you were a kid, let's I got buddy with this middle school not probably
My mom just started yelling out. Counselors, can you return to the dais, please? Counselor McKeel, Counselor Lopez. All right. Russell. Whoa. Hey, Russ, we'll make it worse. I'm sorry, your new colleague. We should not do that to her because now he's going to blame her.
Well, thank you.
Our next item of business is a presentation on a program that is offered through the National League of Cities. So this is something that's available around the country. And Russ, why don't you tell us about the Service Line Warranty Program?
All right, thank you. And I'll be fairly brief in my introduction, and we've got Dennis Lyons on the screen, who will actually do the bulk of the presenting. But yes, what Dennis will be sharing tonight are three programs that would benefit residents of Monmouth. I'll call them forms of insurance. One of them is basically protecting.
Russ, I'm sorry. I'm just going to take 1 second. Because we do have a large packet
council if we're on page 499 of the PDF. So if you want to skip through all of his prior documents, you can see where we are. Thanks, sorry.
Yeah. So two of the programs are similar. They're the line serve, and that would cover damages to property owners' water lines or sewer lines, so one of each. And then there's also a leak protection program that Dennis is going to share. I'll let him give his presentation. And then staff is looking for direction from council on whether there's interest in implementing one, two, or all three of these programs here in Monmouth. There's opportunities, and Dennis will speak to these more, potential for royalties for these, or the city can elect not to enter into an agreement that includes royalties, and that would bring the cost down to the customer. So with that, Dennis, are you ready to go? And I'll turn it over to you.
Very good. Excuse me. Thank you so much for that introduction, Russ. And thank you, Mayor and Council, for giving me the opportunity to share the information with you on our programs. I'm going to share my screen if I can do that here. I don't use Zoom very often, so it's set up a little differently than what I typically work with. So my apologies if it takes me a moment to get this right. Is the presentation appearing on the screen? Are you all able to see the presentation?
Yes, we can.
Okay, very good. I just wanted to be sure before jumping right into it. Now let me see where I can go to the slideshow view. Zoom looks a little bit differently. There it is. I think is that it? There we go. All right. So my name is Dennis Lyon, and I am with HomeServe. As a matter of fact, in 10 days, it'll be my 9th anniversary with the company. So I've been working with HomeServe for nearly a decade now. It's hard to believe that. And also coming to Oregon for conferences through our business partnership with the League of Oregon Cities that began in 2018 as well. So what I'm going to discuss today is a couple of programs that we have. One of them, as Russ mentioned, covers water and sewer line issues for homeowners or property owners. And the other one addresses the issue of high water bills due to leaks from water lines that works for all customers, whether they're the property owner or just when they're the bill payer. So the first one, and let me see if I can minimize this bar. There we go. So I can see my screen. Well, this addresses the first two, actually. Just a quick side-by-side intro. So the National League of Cities Service Line Warranty Program by HomeServe provides the line protection. The basic bullet points are it educates homeowners about their responsibility for the service lines, and it offers them completely optional coverage for repair or replacement. And then the Serve Line Leak program, like I mentioned, provides protection for homeowners due to a high water bill that is the result of a leak while paying the overage amount directly to the city or the utility. So as I mentioned, the service line program will cover the sewer line and the water line. And this is from the foundation to the point of utility connection, which I don't recall off the top of my head what that is in Monmouth. I know it's typically the curb stop for water and the main for sewer. So if it's something different, that would be in the agreements that I provided to us previously. I just don't have that off the top of my head. And this is a program that's been available for 20 years now and was actually designed in conjunction with the National League of Cities on how to make it beneficial for the private side as well as the public side. So there are two separate products within the National League of Cities Service Line program to cover the external water line or external sewer line. Homeowners can participate in one or the other or both. It's entirely up to them because it's voluntary. Both of these coverages will provide is up to $8,500 per incident to repair or replace broken, cracked, or leaking lines, lines that burst due to being frozen and need to be thawed, clogs, tree root penetration, shut-off valves stuck open and closed, you name it. Really anything that inhibits the proper flow or operation of those lines falls within that scope of coverage. On those coverages, there is no annual or lifetime limits for the homeowner who chooses to participate. There's no deductible that has to be met before the coverage begins for them. There are no service fees that they have to pay. So when they have an issue, they contact us at our contact center located in Chattanooga, Tennessee, which is staffed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, including holidays, at a toll-free number. And we dispatch a local licensed contractor that we have pre-vetted to become part of our contractor network who will perform that work. So even if a customer of ours calls us and we dispatch a contractor and it turns out that the issue is on the private side, or I'm sorry, on the public side, that homeowner is not charged any type of fee. That's something that's included in the coverage. And once that claim is initiated by that customer, we work with that contractor directly. So they're not going to be filling out a bunch of forms or paperwork or anything like that. It's really a seamless process for the homeowner to deal with these issues. When a homeowner decides to participate, once they enroll, there is not a pre-inspection of their property. We don't ask them questions about, length of line or materials or anything like that. It's simply a 30-day waiting period. They sign up and 30 days later, that coverage begins for them. Homeowners are able to opt into or out of the coverage at any time and without penalty. So to kind of elaborate on the without penalty part of that, a lot of our customers will pay us on an annual basis. So if they opted out at any point during the year, we would just refund whatever unused premium they had already paid to us, and there's no early termination fee or anything like that. We use locally based, fully licensed and vetted contractors. So what that does for homeowners is it ensures that they're not going to be taken advantage of by price gouging or, urgency. Hey, if you want to get this done right away, I can work into my schedule, but you're going to have to pay me a little more, those kinds of things. It eliminates all those issues that you can encounter in dealing with contractors when it comes to those types of things. I mentioned the phone number, that's 24/7, 365. And also the repairs are guaranteed. So once those repairs are made, they're guaranteed to be done right. So what we provide really within the community is a solution for residents that educates them proactively, and I'll talk about that in a moment, how that works, about their responsibility for those exterior water and sewer lines, and offers them that optional low-cost protection. On your side of things, it reduces the number of calls made to the city that staff has to deal with or that elected officials have to hear about. The timeliness of the repairs reduces water loss and hazards from sewer line breaks and so on, because they're made quickly. Most of our repairs are made within 24 hours. The use of local contractors is putting money back into your local economy. And then, of course, any money that residents save by not having to buy themselves a brand new water or sewer line can be reinvested in the local economy as well when they spend it on other things. As Russ mentioned, there are two different options for the service line aspect of the program. There is an optional non-tax revenue share that you can participate in. That's a 10% revenue share per product per month. It accrues throughout the course of the year, and every January we issue those funds to the city partners that we have that participate in that aspect. Excuse me. Those funds can be used however you like. They're non-taxable. The primary use that I have seen that's been my experience is they're typically channeled towards low-income utility assistance programs, just because they're typically underfunded and they run out of money before you can help as many people as you would like to help. How we make the program available in the community and get the word out to people to educate them about their responsibility is very simple. There's no cost to the city for this service, and it's one that we administer completely. And what that means is we handle the marketing, the distribution, the customer service, vetting the contractors, processing claims, all of that. We do that by direct mail only. So we're not calling people, we're not knocking on doors. It's simply information they receive in the mail that explains to them what their responsibility is. We do that up to 3 times per year, or we say that anyway. Typically, it's once or twice, depending on the size of the community. It's typically major metropolitan areas like a Los Angeles or a Phoenix or something like that, where we would do it 3 times a year. In your community, it'd probably be more like once or twice. Part of this process is we create the communications that get sent out to homeowners, and then we provide that to the city for review and input and ultimately approval of that material before every one of those campaigns. So before any mail is sent out to a homeowner, the city has to approve it, or it just doesn't get sent. So you have that oversight. That marketing is very clear to homeowners that it's not the city that's providing the program, that we're providing it through a partnership with the city, that it's voluntary for them, and that the products are separate. It lets them know that they can sign up by filling out the form that they received in the mail along with the educational information. They can call us, they can go online, whatever it is that works best for them. What we ask for our city partners is use of a city logo or a utility logo on that material, and again, your approval of that material after you've reviewed it. And that's done for a few reasons. One of them is the transparency. You know, you have the oversight over the message. You know what's going out in your community. You've reviewed it. You've approved it. It helps to maximize the public education so that even people who don't opt into the coverage have been given the opportunity, and it's been explained to them that this is something you're responsible for. So if something happens to it, the city is not able to help you with that, but this is an avenue which you could get that help on your own. And then lastly, well, I shouldn't say lastly, but one of the other main things is it creates an economy of scale that allows us to offer those benefits with no limitations annually or lifetime, no deductibles, no service fees, and those types of things, which makes it more valuable for the homeowner to participate. In Oregon, we actually have 28 partners. I haven't updated this. We recently added Sumter, but we're working with 28 communities that have partnered with us. We have these numbers are fluid, of course, and change monthly. But currently around 6,000 customers with 11,000 protection plans in place. We've done over 3,000 jobs in the state of Oregon, and we saved our customers in Oregon over $4 million that they would have spent out of their own pockets on these repairs. And next would be the leak protection program. And again, this one is separate. So these two programs can be adopted at the same time or separately, or you can choose one or the other. So that's really at your discretion on how it is you would want to move forward with these. And this one is endorsed by the National Rural Water Association and has been for, I believe we're coming up on 17 years or 18 years that we've had that endorsement. And really what the benefit is for this one is on your side of things, you recapture that lost revenue from making adjustments or bad debt if people just, move out of their apartment, for example, and decide not to pay their bill and you end up with that bad debt. We handle the customer service aspect of this as well. So there's a reduction of staff workload that's dedicated to leak adjustments because you're not having to do all of that yourself. We're doing that now. And overall, it increases customer satisfaction when they get that high water bill that's a result of having that leak. And they call and we explain to them, well, when you fix that line, give us evidence that it has been repaired and that leak is taken care of, the overage is taken care of. and the customer pays their average bill. And we pay the overage directly to you. So you're not waiting for a customer to hand off a check to you. So the benefits on the customer side is, and there's three different levels, but the maximum is up to $2,500 in protection from the excess water bill. And there's no deductible on that, of course. It's a very simple claims process for them. And they get that peace of mind that that unexpected expense, that high water bill, is actually covered for them. So as far as it works, you have the option to choose that limit of coverage for your customers. So you can go 500, 1,000, 2,500. A lot of times this is based on data that you have. If you're tracking this type of thing, to make that analysis as to which level of protection would benefit the community and the city most. It will cover one leak every 12 months up to the limit of coverage, be it 500, 1,000, or 2,500. The qualifier for that leak adjustment is it would have to be 2 times what their average bill is to qualify for that. As I mentioned, it does require that the homeowner repairs the leak and provides documentation to show that that was done before they get that adjustment. There's no hidden fees, no deductibles, no service charges or anything like that. And there's very simple conditions here. You have the leak, you fix the leak. We pay out 100% of the utility claims that meet that criteria of the protection policy, which again is fix the leak and you get the adjustment. There's a few ways that this aspect can be billed on the service line that I mentioned earlier, the line protection program. That's a direct bill from us to the customer. This one is either an on bill with customers having the option to decline participation before the program even begins. Some utilities will choose to include it into their base rate structure when they do a rate adjustment or a rate study, so that they're making sure they're protecting all of their customers. Nobody's opting out if it's built into the rate. What it does ultimately is it enhances whatever your current leak adjustment policy or process is. And even if you don't have one, it enhances it because now you would have one. And then as far as the option for people to decline participation, they can of course do that at any time. But we do send information out to homeowners 1 to 2 months prior to the launch of the program before it would hit that first utility bill to give them that option to opt out if they chose to do so. So basically how it works is the customer gives us a call about high water bill. We're going to gather the information and initiate the claim and process that protection for them. We're going to verify that the claim meets the leak protection program guidelines and notify that customer. Then we're going to send you the check for the customer's overage, and that's going to get applied to the customer's account. And the customer will pay their average bill, and they're going to be satisfied with the process, knowing that they didn't get stuck with that large water bill. So overall, our solution, we're working with over 1,300 municipal and utility partners. We have over 8.2 million service contracts in place with 4.7 million customers, 1.7 million jobs in just the last 3 years, and we've saved our customers $2 billion out of their own pockets. And this is across North America in the last 3 years as well. And with that being said, I know that was pretty much a high-level overview on things. So if there were any questions that you had at this time, I'm happy to answer those questions. If it's something more technical that I don't readily have the answer to, I'll be able to get back to you through Russ to be able to provide that.
All right. Thank you very much, Dennis. So, questions? Russ, did you have anything you wanted to add to this for us?
I don't. City manager might though. She's got more experience.
So just to give you a scenario where this comes into play, a lot of homeowners do not realize that they're responsible for their sewer lateral from their home to the main. And when that breaks and there's sidewalk and there's street that has to be torn up, and they come to City Hall because they think City Hall is going to be responsible for paying that, and we have to tell them, no, in fact, you are responsible for it. That's where this comes into play. and giving it and offering it to the community so they have the ability to use the service if they so choose. So I just wanted to update and explain that's kind of where this came from. And when Russ asked me, I was like, yes, let's take it to council and see if council would like to offer this to the community or not. It's up, that's your decision. But I wanted to give that scenario because that does happen and it happens a lot.
Councilor Lopez.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And thank you, Rochelle, for giving that scenario. I have lived that scenario in a different city, in a different place. I'd moved into a home. It was about a month and a half after I moved in. And the water line coming into the home had broken. What was it? It was about 4.5 inches outside of our foundation. The homeowner's insurance didn't cover it. The city didn't cover it, and the home warranty also did not cover it. It was definitely made for a tough month. So I'm very intrigued by this program. I like the peace of mind that it can give our residents. And gosh, that would have helped me out a heck of a lot had this been something that existed then. A couple questions that I have about this. I'm interested in what the premiums are. And I think I saw some sample premiums regarding the leak protection, but I don't. Oh, okay. We do have premiums here. Never mind, Exhibit A. But maybe someone can run us through what those premiums are and what they look like.
Sure.
I was handed something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess I can read this.
It's in the marketing agreement, so which is on our packet page.
And Dennis can certainly speak to the premiums as well.
Yeah,
Sure.
This perhaps.
Yes. So the water line protection for residents without that optional revenue share is $8.49 a month. The sewer line protection is $11.49 a month. If you opted into that revenue share, each of those prices would increase by 50 cents. So still, $8.99 and $11.99. So keeping it at an affordable rate to help some of the people that are most vulnerable, who, when they have these issues, they don't have the funds readily available. And in some cases, they may not even have the equity or the credit rating to be able to seek help with the funding. So really, we help the most vulnerable populations in communities. But of course, anybody can participate regardless. When it comes to the leak adjustment aspect, that's typically going to be around $1 to $2 per month to have that overage covered. Excuse me. There's some factors in there as far as what it would include and what it would exclude that could change that price. So depending on how we get that dialed in, you should be looking at about $1 to $2 a month that a customer could expect to have added to their utility bill to cover that leak overage.
Gotcha. Thank you. That's very helpful seeing those numbers.
You're welcome.
One follow-up question regarding the leak overage, and this is maybe a question for Russ here. We hear a lot about the new water meters and the smart water meters that we're installing across the city. I've never thought about it in terms of the leak protection specifically, but one would think that there ought to be some kind of function within a smart water meter to alert, us or the homeowner or someone that, gosh, usage and maybe continuous usage has spiked to the property. Does that exist at all?
So that is true of equipment. And I think the limiting factor is how often you're receiving information from your meter. And here in Monmouth, we receive that information once a month. And so, if depending on when and the size of the leak, that would, that has an impact. We don't get that information instantaneously.
And I can testify that our staff is excellent about calling perhaps large commercial customers to let them know that they might have a problem. I talked to Shannon a couple of times about that, so. Counselor Bell.
So just speaking of large commercial customers, is this just for residents?
So the service line program is just for residential. The leak adjustment program can be just residential or residential and commercial.
Russ, how many like serious leaks do we see in an average year, and how many your sewer main, your sewer lateral has collapsed do we see in a year? Just to give an idea of the scale of this problem over, say, the last 5.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have hard numbers, but
Understood. I'm
anecdotally,
asking for your experience.
Yeah, in between 10 and 20 times throughout the year, where it is, sewer line failure. I think that's a decent number, closer to the 10, but more than 10 leaks that are high water bills that we're getting calls and customers are concerned. That's in the 20 range.
Thanks.
So in the sewer line failures, kind of what's the age of the home, the age of the home that's occurring with?
Yeah, typically sewer line and water line. Well, I'll say sewer line failures. Yes, that is typically the older homes. Line failures, as Dennis mentioned, those could conceivably result from frozen lines, but typically those are older. Actually, no, I'll take that back, because those water lines span the spectrum.
When you say older, 50 years, more than 50 years ish?
Older.
So you looked at me when you said older, so we're going to talk.
Historic homes is what you're telling us, Russ.
When it occurred to me, the home was not old. It was maybe 20 years old. So it can happen to any home. That hurt.
All right. So I think again, there isn't a cost to the city for this. This is a matter of us determining whether or not this would be a service we would like to offer people. And from what I understand, sort of have these options. The water service line plan and the sewer septic line plan is literally direct marketing to the customer and direct payment by the customer. So if folks want to sign up for $8 or $9 a month and $11 or $12 a month, they can, right? So $20 a month, people would be able to take advantage of this program, which probably isn't going to be picked up by the people who most likely need it, unfortunately, because $20 is a lot to some of those folks. But that's completely optional. Then the other program, the LEAP program, is the only option to offer that to our folks is as part of our billing system. So then it's a matter of determining if we would go the rate adjustment route or if we would have it appear as a line item. And there's going to be a little cost to either of those as far as getting that set up. And would it be possible on our billing system to add another line item for this?
I don't know the total answer to that. I'd have to check into that to determine, but I assume it would be with Cassell. At the prior city that I was at, we had Cassell and we were able to do it. So, but.
Okay. And that sounds a little bit more like it's an opt-out situation, that we would put it on, say, to customers, we're going to start this program on X date and you're going to get this extra whichever amount of coverage we opt in for, that premium will appear on your water bill. And you will have the next 3 months to decide if you want to take it or opt out. Am I hearing that correctly?
Yes,
That's my-
also
yeah.
opt out at any time after that as well. So it's entirely up to that customer. So if they missed like those initial communications saying, hey, here's something you can opt out of before it even hits your bill. And then later on, they're like, hey, what's this dollar on my bill? Typically what happens when they call us and we explain what it's for, they're like, oh, for $1, or $2. Yeah, I'm going to keep that just in case that ever happens to me. But it's sometimes people miss the communications or don't pay close attention to them, and then they're questioning it, like, hey, what happened? And in the first 12 months, so if somebody was in it for the first 12 months and decided they wanted to opt out, we'll remunerate them, we'll refund, the $2 a month that they've paid us for those 12 months.
Carol?
So the system is somebody has a leak and they're going to now get charged $100 more on their water bill. But the person has to fix the leak and then send you the bill. And then you pay that $100 on their water bill. That extra money on the water bill.
Correct.
Is that correct? So kind of a system there that requires a very informed public that this is the service they're paying for.
Other questions or thoughts about guiding staff on this? We shouldn't have put this last on the agenda, apparently. We're all out of thoughts. Councilor Lopez.
Well, you open the door to thoughts about guiding staff. Generally speaking, I would be in favor of this. Giving people the option to access coverage, I think is a great thing. I do love that it's not a requirement. The communication around that opt-out component, I think, is something that we as a council and as a city would have to bear to ensure that people understand this is a choice before them. But it does give me a little bit of comfort knowing that the organization, the HomeServe, would understand and support our residents if someone said, oh gosh, I missed that, et cetera, in that 12-month period. So that does answer quite a few of those concerns for me. And I think generally I am in favor of exploring this.
Councilor McKeel.
I'm not sure I'm in favor of having the city logo on this, though. That's an endorsement when the city logo is on a program like this.
So as Dennis said, that they'll send all the information to the city to be approved before they'll send that out. That can be something that we review together to make sure that the council is okay with everything that's going out. I do know in my prior city, they initially had put the city logo as like the return address on the envelope, which caused a lot of people to call the city thinking that the city was the one offering it. And so we took that off and that stopped the calls. And so there's things like that we can do to ensure that residents are getting clear communication that the council supports.
Councilor Albers.
And Councilor McKeel put the other side of that. Okay, I've gotten offers from other companies that I look at and say, that seems scammy to me. And to have something that's endorsed by the National League of Cities and the city saying, we know what's going on, we're working with these people to offer this service, actually feels good to know that there's, it's not just some random company coming in and saying, we'll take your money and fix your water line when it fails, maybe, So I would actually see it as a plus, the logo's there.
All right, Councilor Lopez, and then I'm going to propose a way to move forward.
Councilor Oberst, you mentioned the National League of Cities, and I think the League of Oregon Cities has been mentioned previously. I think upholding, as a company, upholding those reputations in those spaces That is not an easy thing to do. That also gives us as a council another avenue if for some reason things go sideways, another avenue of recourse to be able to to be able to explore what could be done and to make our voice heard. I don't anticipate things would go sideways with those endorsements, and as I look at the list of partners, cities such as Hermiston, as Dayton, as Tillamook, as Kaiser, right, North Bend. I have personal relationships with councilors and mayors in many of these places, as do many of us, and so there are some ringing endorsements here that I think help me in that issue of that level of accountability or endorsement. So,
All right. I'm going to again ask for sort of thumbs up, thumbs down, and let me go through this in a couple of ways. So the first program, the service line protection, is everybody generally in favor of this? Is the one that the city doesn't administer at all. It's direct bill. They set it up, they stop it, they go it, they do all that. Generally in favor of making that available to our residents. Okay. Then both water and sewer. Because it could do one or the other, but I don't see why we would do. Okay. And then if we say, yeah, let's go forward on those two, the other option on that is that for an additional charge per month to the resident, we get a little bit of revenue sharing from that. So it increases the cost to the residents, but we get a little money back. How do we feel about upping that charge? So it goes from the $8.49 to $8.99, $11.49 to $11.99, and we get some of that back. Down? Nope. Nope. No need for that. Since we're not doing billing or anything, it seems a little gratuitous. Okay. And then the other then is that leak protection, which does require us to do some administration. So how do we feel about that? Oh, keep your thumbs up or down, please. We got to count here. So we're not feeling this one quite yet. So we're going to wait on that. Let's wait on that because it is an affirmative opt-out. So we're going to wait on the line protection or the leak protection. Sorry. Not feeling great about that. Again, might be the lateness of the hour. So, but all right. So Russ knows where we're going and we'll move forward with this. And if we have everybody wakes up and decides they wish they voted differently, we can come back to it. Is that okay, Dennis? How we got it? Did we ask all the questions you need answers to?
Yes, absolutely. So the agreements are already created. So it would just be a matter of, I think it's been a little bit since I sent that to Russ, so I'll probably have it updated so that the date is current. There isn't anything else that'll change, just the date, just for the formality of it. And then when it comes to the leak adjustment program, again, that's something that's separate. You can bring that in at a later date once you've had some time to explore that a little more. That's perfectly fine. And frankly, that's typically how the process goes. A city will adopt the line protection aspect first, let that get rolled out and get established within the community. And then if they see the benefit of the leak adjustment as well, bring that in at a later date.
Perfect, thank you. And obviously with our new finance staff and everything, the sort of easier we can get going on this, the better. All right, thank you, appreciate it. Dennis, appreciate you staying up late to talk to us. And look forward to being able to offer this to our community.
Awesome. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a wonderful evening.
Oh, yeah, we hope so. All right. Thank you, Russ. Appreciate it. That brings us to our reports. And of course, at this late hour, I hope we can keep those fairly brief. I do want to let folks know and that I think many of us are concerned, and we're hearing a lot of concern expressed about issues facing people in our community with the loss of SNAP benefits and all of the sort of challenges. Will they, won't they, how much, when, all of those things. I want to just let you know, and we can get more information out, Rochelle, and I can put something in the Friday report to everyone. But we have met the all hands group, which you all are familiar with, which is the two cities, the school district, the fire department, Western Oregon, our Representative Paul Evans, and our Senator Deb Patterson. Last week, we brought this up as we were heading into this November 1st deadline. We met again Monday. That Monday meeting included Patty Nevue, who directs the Ella Kern Food Bank. We had the communication directors from Monmouth Independence School District. We had a representative from Marion Polk Food Share. So we are doing some unified messaging around food resources in our community. So you will start seeing a lot of amplification of each other's messages, including that the food bank, Ella Kern Food Bank, is adding hours to their process. Also, we want to make sure people know that when they are not open, because they do have limited hours, anybody can go to the Polk County Resource Center behind Roth's and get an emergency food box. Anybody. Neither of these food resources require identification. They don't require you to present a SNAP card. You don't even have to be getting it for yourself. If you know of someone, if you have a neighbor who needs food, you can go to any of these places and pick up either an emergency box, a small box from the Polk Resource Center, or shop at our Ella Kern Food Bank. We are all hearing of concerns about availability of food, that food banks have had their supplies cut. But right now, I want to assure you that our community is still getting resources. And we also know people want to volunteer and help. And all of that information also will be coming out. Both Ella Kern and Polk County Resource Center accept donations of food and of money. And so those things we will continue to support those, to amplify those, and be able to direct folks. Because just in case you weren't aware, in the 97361 zip code, we have 1,379 cases of folks on SNAP, receiving SNAP benefits just in our zip code. Polk County has 8,544 households that receive SNAP with an average household size of 2. And their average household benefit is $329. But each dollar in SNAP benefits generates an additional $1.50 to $1.80 in local economic activity. And giving our dollars to the food bank and Polk Resource Center makes those dollars go further. So we ask folks to help. We ask folks I asked if we need additional volunteers for the food bank. They have 80 regular volunteers, and folks are really stepping up to help more. So there'll be a lot more information about that, but I know folks are concerned about that. People want to help. People are offering to make food for families. If you know of someone who needs food, and making an extra casserole or things like that is really a great way
to get us through this period of uncertainty. So we're doing a lot on that. Again, we'll get some more information out so that everybody can share that. And again, it is a community-wide effort. So we have the food bank at food pantry at Western Oregon, a food pantry at the high school. All of these folks are working together very closely to try to meet the needs of our community. Luckily, at least the Polk Resource Center is on the trolley line, so folks can ride the trolley over to those offices Monday through Friday to get emergency food and help. And we appreciate everyone's efforts on that. So we did get a couple of applications for boards and commissions. I want to take care of that real quickly. One of those actually just received today, so hopefully you had a chance to look at that. Jane Gregg is interested in Parks and Rec, and Jane has been a member of the community for a long time. She's very involved in our Monmouth Garden Club and Master Gardeners, and she actually part of the property that she sold for the Riddle Road Apartments will be turned into a park. So I appreciate her wanting to get engaged on that. And the other one that we had received a while back was actually for Susan. What's her name? Phyllis, help me out here. Tennant and
Sandra Tennant.
Yeah, thank you. She was interested in actually the Historic Commission. So we know they can use more help to keep those great projects going. So Jane Gregg and Sandra Tennant, I would hope for a motion to approve that.
Move approval of both.
Second.
Thank you. Councillor Oberst for the motion and Councillor McKeel for the second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, great. Let's get those folks going on those active commissions. And if we have some brief reports that need to be made at this meeting of boards and commissions, we'll get those. Otherwise, we'll save that for next time. Great. Thank you very much. Yep. Yes. And again, brief announcements. If anything going on we need to know, we'll give our full reports next time.
Just want to report Arts and Culture Commission is having a reception on November the 13th for the artist Pam Wenz, who has art in the hallway out there, 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock, November 13th. I'll report everything else next.
Go ahead, Councillor Lopez. All right, and Rochelle, what do we really need to know here tonight?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to mention that the Regional Water Treatment Plant, the IGA, has been signed and the first meeting is scheduled for later this month. So we're going to start having those meetings. Also, the ADA project that you've seen some of the work that's been done, ODOT came in and did phase 1. They're now designing phase 2. So they're going to be coming back in they kind of did the easier ones first is what I'm understanding. And then they're going to come back and deal with the more difficult ADA projects. The other thing to mention, and I just want to remind the council that I will be going out on medical leave starting the 12th through the beginning of December. And Police Chief Isaiah Haynes, who's here this evening, is going to be City Manager Pro Tem while I'm out recovering. So I just wanted to remind you of that. And that's all I have.
Too bad he won't get to wear a Halloween costume for us so that we can see what he would choose to do. All right, thank you very much. Any other last announcements? Then we will go ahead and entertain a motion to adjourn.
A motion to adjourn.
That was quick, so we'll give it to Councilor Ridgway Oberst. All right, thank you very much. Appreciate everybody's patience tonight. We are adjourned.